Please welcome now to Live from Studio 6B, the editor-in-chief of Just the News, and of course the host of Just the News No Noise here 6 p.m. each and every night on Real America's Voice, the great John Solomon. Mr. Solomon, how are you?
I'm well, guys. Good to be with you. Love your show.
Well, it's always great to have you. So we actually covered your article a little earlier this hour in news. Rick Delgado kind of took us through it, and I actually pulled up. I just want people to see it. Aaron, if you could put my screen up. This op-ed 2016 by one Michael J. Morrell. I ran the CIA. Now I'm endorsing Hillary Clinton. This was an op-ed by Morrell. So tell us about your piece tonight that you dropped on Just the News.
Well, let's remind everybody what we revealed last week on your show. Heading into the fall of 2020, Anthony Blinken, now Secretary of State, advisor to Joe Biden, reaches out to Mike Morrell, spurs Mike Morrell to write a letter with 51 intelligence agents falsely claiming that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation. And of course, that cancels and negates the Hunter Biden laptop. The American people are deprived of having that debate because behind that letter becomes all of the censorship from social media and all the Joe Biden blunting it in the debates by saying it's not true, 51 experts said it. So Mike Morrell is in the middle of that political dirty trick. Now let's wind back 4 more years in almost an exact same fashion, different Democrat candidate, right? Hillary Clinton's running. Who's Hillary Clinton's national security advisor at the campaign? President Biden's current national security advisor, Jake Sullivan. Jake Sullivan on July 24th, or on or about the campaign, with Jake Sullivan's involvement and others, they make an allegation that Donald Trump's behind the hacking of the DNC servers. 4 days later, Morrell's old boss, the current CIA director, John Brennan, goes into the Oval Office and briefs Barack Obama and says, hey, Mr. President, you should know we have some Russian intelligence that Hillary Clinton approved this operation to kind of hang a shingle, a false Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house, and we should all be aware of it. The CIA becomes so involved of what Hillary Clinton's concerned about what Hillary Clinton's doing, they eventually tell the FBI, who's investigating Donald Trump, hey, be cautious here. Hillary Clinton's running this. We, of course, now what he meant back then. We knew that the Steele dossier was being pushed by the Clinton campaign. We learned that later. Right in the middle, right after that event. So Clinton campaign comes out, makes an early allegation. Then the president gets warned, hey, this is probably a false flag. And then a week later, Mike Morrell goes and writes this op-ed. And the op-ed endorsing Hillary Clinton was the news at the time, but I encourage everybody to read a few paragraphs down because he makes an audacious claim that Vladimir Putin actually recruited Donald Trump to be an unwitting agent of the Federation of Russia. That is a really major thing. That letter gets blown up into stories that day, and then the very next day, Hillary Clinton is riding that surf. What is she doing? She's putting out an ad saying that Donald Trump's unfit to be in charge of the military and security apparatus. A few days later, 50 people write a letter. Does that sound familiar? Because that's what happened in 2020. 50 people write a letter saying Donald Trump shouldn't be president because of all these things with national security, Russia, all that. It's the exact same campaign apparatus. When people say, hey, has the intelligence community become weaponized? Has it become partisan? This is a perfect example. And let's just go back for one more second to 2012, the prior election. In the middle of that election, we had the terrible Benghazi tragedy where 4 Americans were killed, including the ambassador. In the immediate aftermath, Mike Morrell had later admitted he's the guy that edited Susan Rice's talking points to take out the fact that they knew it was a terrorist attack, which allowed her to go on national television suggesting falsely that it was an attack spurred by concern over an anti-Muslim video, something that turned out not to be true, but it was the Obama administration's preferred talking point at that point. 3 different elections, though, Mike Morrell said, I didn't do it for politics, but he did do it, and it had a political impact. 2016, he clearly does it for politics because he's endorsing Clinton. 2020, he's clearly trying to help Joe Biden win, according to this thing. One intelligence guy, 3 episodes, a lot of people see similarities in all 3.
Yeah. It's really, just an unbelievable unraveling here that you guys continue to do. 2 things. I heard, were you surprised today that when you talked to Devin Nunes that he had not heard about Mike Morrell, he said to you?
Yeah, listen, I don't think a lot of people remember this op-ed. It just wasn't part of the Russia narrative, but a lot of people tipped me off to it as I was looking back. Right after the Morrell 2020 stuff, people said, don't forget Benghazi, don't forget Hillary Clinton. Like, what about Hillary Clinton? Oh, look what I found. And that's how we kind of stumbled onto this. And really, listen, I don't want to pick on Mike Morrell. He's a 30-year, he served his country for 33 years in the intelligence community. But when people ask, how does 2020 happen? Well, there's a playbook in 2016 that looks just like it. And these intelligence operatives are now beginning to insert themselves into presidential politics. 3 examples in 3 years, whether witting, unwitting, intentional, unintentional. There is a real concern, and that's why Devin Nunes said, hey, this is a problem, intelligence community-wide. We got to get to the bottom of it.
I mean, how does Anthony Blinken, I mean, I think, for the audience who watches this show, who's working all day and trying to survive Biden inflation and everything else we've been talking about all night tonight, their question is going to be, we continue to go to Just the News, we read all this, we see this, it makes sense to us, but how do these people pay the price? How does Anthony Blinken survive? What is the road now with Comer or Jordan? What is the road to see somebody lose their job here, John? What has to happen?
It's a great question. Some of the members that have come on Real America's Voice talking to Amanda and I have said, listen, maybe we defund them. Maybe we say that no contracts from the United States government may go to any one of the 51. Maybe we put in budget legislation, maybe the next budget deal, that these 51 can never again be hired or paid a federal salary again. Maybe they're stripped of their security clearances, de facto or post facto. Listen, there has to be some more questions of Anthony Blinken. Will anyone in Congress get answers? Now, Jim Jordan and Mike Turner, Chairman, House Intelligence, House Judiciary, sent a letter. Will Blinken answer? I'm sure Blinken's going to give the answer, which is, well, I didn't encourage him to do it. He came up with the idea after talking to him. Well, wait a second. After you talked to him, you forwarded him an email with the one talking point you wanted and which showed up in the letter, which is a USA Today fact check, which turned out not to be factually true, that the FBI thought this laptop was a Russian disinformation operation. So, Anthony Blinken, if you didn't think you had any impact, why'd you send the email, which puts the Russian disinformation in Mike Morrell's hands to insert in the letter? I think Blinken's going to have a hard time explaining this, and my guess is he'll tell the committee he's too busy in a turbulent world to answer their questions.
All right, I want to ask you another thing while I have you, too, because I talked yesterday, obviously the Tucker News, and there was a lot of news out there yesterday. For me, the biggest story yesterday was Susan Rice leaving. And the idea that she's just leaving because her time is up, I just don't buy at all. As someone who is flat out addicted to kind of that inner circle power, I can't imagine that there was any kind of what the significant forces were that drove her off. What do you make of her departure? Is there something more devious here that the Republicans need to be on the lookout here? Or is Obama pulling her out because they're not going to let Joe run, even though he thinks they're going to? What do you think is going on with her departure?
Well, like I mentioned, Morrell's 2012 thing clearly is directly tied to Susan Rice, but I don't think that's the reason why, though clearly people should, look at all 3 of those episodes. Listen, I think in the last 6 to 8 months there have been mass departures from the Biden ship. Ron Klain left as chief of staff. Most of the communications team that have been with President Biden for years have left. The man's at 38% approval rating. Only 24% of Americans, 2 years into his presidency, it's not like he's at the end of his term, 2 years into his presidency, they don't want him to run again. He has these terrible lapses. He had misidentified a woman as a man the other day. He says things that no one people can understand. He jumbles facts. He falls off his bike. I think those who are serious about getting involved maybe don't see a strong pathway to continue supporting this president. I think it's very possible some of them could jump to other campaigns if there's a serious rival. Bobby Kennedy's a fun rival to there, but right now he's not really tracking big in the polls. But what if a Gavin Newsom got him in? What if the Colorado governor got in? They could potentially pose a youth challenge, a credible youth challenge backed by the base of the party. And people like Susan Rice and Ron Klain, well, they're out there now. Maybe they can join another campaign, achieve the same goals. It's a dynamic I think we should watch. I don't know of anything. I don't know of any reason to think Jared Polis is in, or I have some reason to believe that a California Governor Newsom's in because he's been taking trips to the border and doing other things and engaging with conservatives on truth. So he's acting a little bit like a presidential candidate. But those are 2 guys that when I talked to the base of the party said they could pose a credible challenge to Joe Biden. And I'll throw another one in there, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin sounded like an anti-Trump candidate more and more every day with his interview on Sean Hannity last night. Those people could pose some pretty credible challenges, and those who have left the Biden administration could hook on there if they wanted.
I mean, the DNC's throwing around today that there's no debates, that's out, there's going to be nothing, it's all closed down, Biden's the guy, it sounds to me. And I see the Republicans today taking President Trump's truth to make it sound like he doesn't want to debate. I don't think that's the way he meant it. Do you think the Republicans should not have debates in the primary?
Oh, gosh, no. Listen, Donald Trump loves to debate. So don't you remember 2016? I mean, he just went down the row and shot them all dead with, rhetorical lines. I don't believe he's suggesting. I think the point he's making is that some of these debates have proven not to be with media who are trustworthy. They inserted false things. They allowed bad things to come. The media in the debates cut off Donald Trump when he tried to bring up the Hunter Biden laptop using Mike Morrell's letter, which we now know isn't really true. Yeah. So when you take all of those things together, I think you have a wariness, but all Donald Trump said is, hey, if you're talking about debates, you might want to consult the candidates, including the guy leading in the polls. Yeah. I think that's all he was trying to say. All
right. Well, we love when you come on. Just the News. Obviously, John Solomon, you're going to go there first thing every day. They keep breaking these stories down. John, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Good to be with you.